Welcome to the show, guys. Listen, this story I got here, it actually is very important to cryptocurrencies, and I'll explain to you why as we get this show opened up and get this story going. So let's open up the charts right here. An awful lot of people are not going to notice this story. It's going to go overlooked, but you have to understand something. Uh, it says cryptocurrencies added into the list of priorities by the Security and Exchange Commission. Now, this is the Security Exchange Commission of the United States government, United States Security and Exchange Commission, the Office of Compliance and Inspections and Examinations of the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, which is tasked with the duty of regulating and overseeing operations of cryptocurrency in the USA, has released a report which shows cryptocurrencies to be the top priority for 2019. Okay, let's go back a few years. Let's rewind back in history to when I started with Bitcoin, Bitcoin was like flying by the seat of its pants back then. And things like the Security Exchange Commission, they didn't even know what Bitcoin was. You couldn't spend Bitcoin any place. And Bitcoin was like such a little thing, such a tiny little nuance within the financial system. It was like Magic the Gathering playing cards or Pokemon cards or something like that, And and now to see this article here, for me to see this article here to say that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, which is tasked with the duty of regulating and overseeing cryptocurrency, it's like if I had that knowledge, if you had that knowledge, if you were in a time machine, you said, well, look, 3 years or 4 years into the future, the Office of Compliance and Inspection of the United States Security Exchange Commission will be tasked with the duty of regulating and overseeing cryptocurrencies. Back then, they didn't even know what the thing was. Never heard of it before. Probably a lot of people who worked for the SEC back then didn't even know what it was. Now, what is it? It says here that it's their top priority. Look at this. Top priority for 2019 is cryptocurrencies. How far we've come in such a short period of time. You have to understand something right now. That I think the very first purchase with Bitcoin was made 10 years ago. And back then, somebody did order a pizza for 7,000 Bitcoins, and they thought they had a good deal. Oh my gosh, how far we've come. You know what I mean? And so for these guys out there saying, oh, Bitcoin's dying and all this kind of stuff, they don't really know what's going on. What's really going on is under the surface, under the current. Developers are working on cryptocurrencies like mad. The governments in the United States, and not just the United States, but in other countries, are working on cryptocurrencies. They're moving forward with regulating them. It's becoming more and more accepted. Cryptocurrency is becoming more and more accepted every day as an actual asset class or whatever. It's becoming more and more accepted that it's worth something. If you see, you have to be in my position, going back in a time machine, back to like 2014 or something like that, and back the way cryptocurrencies were looked at back then. It was just a few guys. And let me tell you, one of the exchanges that they've closed now, I think it was BTCE or one of them. I can't remember why can't I remember? I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember the name of that exchange. But I used to go there, and I used to go on the chat and stuff and everything. And I had an account there with cryptocurrency in it, and I even traded a little bit there, back in the early days. And all those guys in there, they were talking back and forth, and they were saying, we're all going to be rich, And I was in there, too, and I was like, yeah, right, all going to be rich. Maybe it'll go someplace, but maybe it won't. But it's a great idea. I recognize the potential of it, but I was like, I don't know. We're all going to be rich, and stuff like that. And a lot of those guys in there, that's back when Bitcoin were cheap. They bought them before me, and they had hundreds of them, you know. And they were talking about how fiat is going to go down and everything else, And I was a little bit skeptical, a little bit skeptical. And I'll tell you what, I shouldn't have been skeptical. I mined a few, and I got a few Bitcoins. And the thing is when the big fall came, it went up to $1,150, right? And I was all ecstatic because my Bitcoins were worth a lot of money at $1,150, but I hung on to them. And I was thinking, hey, they're going to go higher, And I watched them go down, just like they're going down now. They just did. They went down, and they went down, and they went down, and they went down, and they went down. And then when they got down near their bottom, like it's doing now, I got awful discouraged, and there was all kinds of newspaper articles coming out saying, oh, cryptocurrency's dying and all this kind of stuff, and it's going to go to zero and everything. And I think they were worth maybe a couple $100 a piece still. And I got sitting there thinking to myself, I said my Bitcoins, I added them up, how many I had, and I said $200 a piece, and I added that up 200 times however many I had, and I said to myself, gee, I'd be better off with that money than the Bitcoins, because if they go to zero, I'll end up with nothing, and I'm not a rich guy, and I could use the money that I get from them and stuff. And I said, well, I think I'll trade them. So I traded them out, for some silver. And huge mistake, because it wasn't long after I did that they went to $20,000, and I've been kicking myself ever since, And I'm not making that mistake again. I know what Bitcoin's doing. I know what it's doing. It's doing the same old thing. It's done the same old thing about, looking back on the charts, you can see it's done the same thing. And what it does is it starts out at a certain price level, say $30, and then it'll rise up to like $260, and then all of a sudden it'll drop back down again. But it won't go back down to the 30 it was when it started. It'll go back down to 60, And then the next time it'll rise way up to $1,150 from whatever, down low, and then it'll fall off, but it never falls back down to where it was previously. It's always multiples higher when it gets ready to make its next hike up, and then it goes way the heck up again. It's been doing this over and over and over again, repeating this same pattern as it grows out in the world, exponentially grows like a cancerous tumor. That's what it's growing like. It's growing like cancer, very much like cancer. I think cancer patients have that same thing too, where their tumor fluctuates in size, but it's always growing. Shrinks back a little bit, they go in, they're all hopeful, oh, I'm going to live, and then they go back a month later, and the tumor's twice as big as it was before. And then it shrinks back a little bit again, and then it grows back big again. But it always grows bigger than it ever was before until it finally kills them. Well, that's the way cryptocurrency's doing right here. This is going to kill the financial system. And these guys that are in the business here regulating it, they made it their top priority for 2019. It says it states in the report that the digital asset market is growing rapidly and may present risks to retail investors. A number of digital asset market participants, including brokers, dealers, trading platforms, and investment advisors, also continues to increase. See what it says? It's increasing. Even though the price is falling, the base is increasing. It's almost like a plant, that'll grow during a certain season, then the leaves fall off, it goes dormant for a while, and meanwhile, underneath the ground, the roots are spreading out where you can't see them. That's what this is doing, and it's actually growing. It says it's not the first time that the SEC has expressed concerns over the matters of safety and ill regulations over the ever-growing and dynamic cryptocurrency markets. They have included cryptocurrencies even in the report published last year, although the area of concern was different. They want to focus on financial professionals maintaining adequate control and safeguards to protect the assets from theft or misappropriation, and whether financial professionals are providing investors with disclosure about the risks associated with these investments, including the risk of investment losses, liquidity risks, and price volatility, and potential fraud. So, you know what I think is happening here? I think the SEC is acting in a prudent manner. I think they're acting in a prudent manner, but at the same time, I think you're going to see them get this solved pretty soon, because, and you're probably going to see an ETF. You're probably going to see an ETF, because they just weren't used to this stuff. Come along, and they're having to figure it out themselves. And I think they're working hard on it, because it says top priority for the year 2019. So they had a few proposals for ETFs. I guess they turned down. There's going to be more. Trust me, there's going to be more. And when these guys at the Security and Exchange Commission actually get onto this stuff, they'll start to get more comfortable with it after a while, and they probably will give somebody a license to go out and create an exchange-traded fund for it. So listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next show. Bye-bye, guys.